The children were good, but fought in the woods, until one was drawing red. They squared up as mates, but sadly too late, and the Yule goat took their heads.
Hello, my name is Adam and welcome back to my channel where I make a tabletop role-playing game from scratch on camera. And sorry about the jump scare, as you know I have a flair for the dramatics. This is the Yilebókk, or also known as the Yule goat. It's a demon or spirit or something that lives in Trollskog. I want to talk about traditions today and how we can world build them. And since it's that time of winter, let's talk about Yule. For those who don't know, Yule is a Nordic celebration that existed way before Christmas. It can actually be traced back to Proto-Germanic roots, and there's still debate regarding what Yule actually means. Regardless of where the word stems from, it is linked to the winter solstice. Either because you celebrate the turn of the sun or the period around it. I want the same connection to happen in my world, so we have to invent this tradition. The question is then, how do we make a tradition? My approach is to think of three things: instructions, layers, and story. Traditions stem from necessity. The world used to be dangerous, and survival wasn't given. There were things you absolutely needed to avoid and other things you absolutely required to survive. On top of that, you didn't have science that could explain how natural phenomena worked and how you could influence the outcome. We have to either invent or locate these situations where people require specific instructions to survive when we world build. You had to survive the cold winters. You had to stock up on food, pray that it lasted, and pray that the next year would also yield enough food. And if a fire got out of hand and burned your house down, you were dead. This is why the winter solstice is a very important mark in cultures with harsh winters, such as in Northern Europe. The darkest day of the year, the midway through winter, it's the point of no return and the turning point of hope. Now, I want to amplify this idea in my world. It's not just the darkest day of the year, but also the only day where the sun never rises. I'm actually going to have this idea in my back pocket because I could easily expand upon this with an apocalypse. Nothing screams more Ragnarok than people hoping for the sun rising the next day, but it never does. Ever again. I actually want this day to be even more bleak. One thing I haven't told you is that Trollskog isn't just a physical forest. It's a different dimension. You could take the wrong turn in a regular forest and suddenly you become trapped in an endless labyrinth of trees, only to wander out in a clearing on the other side of the country. During the winter solstice, the veil between our world and the realm of Trollskog is at its thinnest. Not only that, but most of the rivers, lakes and fjords are frozen solid, making it a lot easier for the creatures of Trollskog to traverse the lands. The winter solstice is the most dangerous day of the year, and therefore it's the day where you particularly need to defend yourself and you need specific instructions to survive. So let's look at the Uskoreia, or Oskareia, which literally means the riding party from Asgard. But it's more well known as the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt comes from Proto-Germanic paganism again, and is interpreted in many different ways in Germanic culture. This is where Halloween comes from. In Norse mythology, however, the story is that Odin rides through the sky, followed by an army of the dead, restless souls that hunt down humans. If you haven't made the preparations for Yule and hadn't painted your doorways in black tar, then your soul will be dragged from your body when the Oskareia rides through. Here we can see what I mean about instructions. The Wild Hunt was invented not only to explain a natural phenomenon, but also to teach people how to survive. You need to prepare before Yule, otherwise your soul will be taken. In our world building, we can also invent specific actions people have to do. Some of them actually help survive, others are just superstitions. During the winter solstice, the Yule goats will use the thin whale to wander to any and all the villages. The army of the dead follows, accompanied by trolls, giants, draug, and other nasty creatures. I wanted the tradition to be that you lock your doors and windows and you place a piece of iron in the doorframe or windowsill. That will prevent the Yule goat from attacking your house. I also want people to not go outside or risk getting hunted and killed. This Yule goat is not messing around. The second point to making a tradition is what I like to call layers. What I mean about that is that people evolve, their environments change. The things that used to be a necessity isn't anymore. The instructions that were crucial for survival may be changed because maybe you don't have the stuff it requires. If you look at how the Wild Hunt and the Yule goat are interpreted around Northern Europe, you'll be surprised that they even stem from the same source. Layers upon layers of changes because people change. At least in my RPG, I want the Yule goat to literally stalk people during the winter solstice. But what about the places where the Yule goat doesn't reach? Or further south, where there's still sun? Here we can expand with layers. I was thinking that in the outer islands there wouldn't be any Yule goat or army of the dead. I don't have a map yet, but I'm bound to have some island somewhere which I can call Outer Islands. And here they interpret winter solstice as a feast. A feast where they sacrifice a goat. Because on islands where it's hard to obtain grazing fields, I'd assume goats would be a luxury. Adding to this, maybe one person dresses up as the Yule goat and makes a lot of noise just to scare the children. Here, I can add a lot of variants, and even small changes are good. Places where iron is scarce might have people gather in that one longhouse which has iron. Places with an abundance of iron might have dedicated iron bars for Yule that are hung up as ornaments. The fun thing here is how you can just tweak parameters such as resource accessibility and create a unique tradition. And that takes us to my final point. Stories. This is what your audience grabs onto. You could have the most complex tradition in the world, but you need to make them interesting if you want to share it with others. I made a nursery rhyme here. It doesn't explain much, but these stories don't actually have to be accurate. I even find it more interesting if not everything is meticulously described. Make a horror story where the Yule goat slaughters a sloppy family. or a child that managed to hide from the Yule goat and watch the souls of their friends get dragged into Trollskog. There's tons of stories out there just waiting to be written. It's stories like these the inhabitants of your world listen to, and so it's these stories that captures your audience. So these are my ingredients to make traditions, and I hope this was useful to you. And if you have any other traditions on how you make traditions, please share them down in the comment section. This video actually gets published on the winter solstice, so be careful tonight. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and share this with your GM. It will be a good Christmas gift. And as you would say in Norse, God Jul.